Hello, 5th graders, and welcome to a read-aloud of today's science ebook, that being this one here, titled Photosynthesis, as needed for today's science lesson, Unit 3, Lesson 6, Energy in Food. So for today's ebook, we'll be reading pages 4 through 27, and learning about how plants use the power of the sun to create energy and food for themselves through this special process called photosynthesis here. So let's go ahead and get straight into it by flipping to page 4 and starting off here where it says solar energy. All living things on Earth need energy to live. You need energy. Animals need energy. And plants need energy too. Plants get energy from a star that we know as the sun. The sun is a massive and mighty star. It sends light and heat in every direction. A small portion of its solar energy shines on Earth. Its sunlight packs a powerful punch. It heats our planet and creates wind. It supports the water cycle. It also supplies plants with the energy they need to grow. So a bit about the water cycle here. The sun heats water, like the sun in that picture heating the water of the ocean there. Water evaporates into the sky. It turns to vapor, condenses, and then forms clouds. Then it rains. The water collects in lakes, rivers, and streams. Then it evaporates again, and the cycle continues. The water cycle provides the moisture plants and animals need to survive. Now here's something you may already know. Humans are learning how to use solar energy too. Scientists are finding ways to use the sun's light to power cars, homes, and even our phones. So if you've ever seen solar panels before, those are designed to capture the energy of the sun, which we can turn to electricity and use it to power our devices. Next up, parts of a plant. Plants can grow almost anywhere on Earth. They grow in the ocean, they grow on the mountains, they even grow in deserts. There are 300,000 types of plants in our world. Plants have features that help them live in these places, but all plants rely on the same things to survive. They all need sun, water, air, and food. They also all have the same parts to help them live. So some parts of a plant we'll see are the stem, the leaves, and the roots underground. A couple other notes here. Bamboo is a fast-growing plant. That's a picture of some bamboo stalks right there. Some types of bamboo can grow more than 1 meter or 3 feet in a single day. So very, very fast-growing indeed. As for moss, it might not look quite like other plants, but moss, that stuff right there, can do some incredible things. Could you survive under an Arctic layer of ice for 1,500 years? An ancient piece of moss was able to do just that. When scientists pulled it out of the ice, it gave a little light and warmth. Soon it was as good as new and growing again. Very impressive. So the first part of the plant we'll talk about today is the roots. If you recall, that was this part of the plant that's underground, in the soil there. So what do the roots do? Have you ever thought about why plants don't blow away when it's windy? Or why they don't wash away when it's raining? It's because plants have strong and sturdy roots underground. Roots anchor plants into the ground. They grow underneath the soil. Humans absorb the nutrients they need to live and grow from food. But plants use their roots to absorb nutrients from the soil. So root recipes. There are actually some plants where the part of the plant that we eat is the root. Roots can be the tastiest part of a plant. We eat the roots of carrots, turnips, rutabagas, potatoes, and onions. So when we eat those vegetables, we're actually eating the root part of that plant. So roots don't just hold plants into the ground, they also hold soil in place and help keep Earth healthy. One other note here, growing bridges. Roots aren't just for plants anymore. The Warcasis tribe of India creates bridges from the roots of rubber trees. It takes 10 to 15 years for a bridge to grow. These bridges are strong enough to support the weight of 50 people. So roots are indeed very important for many different things. Different plants have different roots. Some plants have a taproot system. This means they have one big root from which little roots grow. This type of root can grow very long. It lets the plant get water from deep under the soil. Large trees have a taproot system. Other plants have a fibrous root system in which a bunch of thin roots grow from the stem of a plant. These roots stay shallow, so they don't go too deep. Garden plants usually have a fibrous root system. Not all roots grow underground. Some rise from the stem. They hang in the air or stretch through the air before working their way underground. Corn has this type of root system. So scientists found a tree in Sweden with roots that have been growing for more than 9,500 years. I don't know if that would be this roots here. That would be an example of a fibrous root system. So one that grows a bunch of thin, spindly little roots growing in all directions. Other notes, scientists are studying how plants use roots in soil to warn one another about diseases. Very interesting. As for a taproot system, so this would be one where it has one really, really thick root, or one really big one, and then smaller ones growing out of that. So most big trees, as it says, have a taproot system like this. As for plant food, when plants and animals die, they decompose. This means they dissolve or break apart. As they decompose, they are absorbed into the soil. This is what makes the dirt rich with nutrients and the perfect meal for new plants. Next part of the plants to talk about are the stems. Stems are strong. They have to be because they have an important job to do. Stems hold up and support the leaves and flowers of a plant. They are the plant's backbone, so to speak. As a plant gets older, the stem grows longer and thicker. The outside of the stem becomes rough so that it can protect the plant. The inside of a stem acts as a road system for plants. Tiny tubes carry water and nutrients throughout the plant. Stems also store nutrients for plants to use later. So that would be like a section of the inside of a stem. So like in that picture of celery right there, this big old stalk in the middle, that would be the stem of the plant from which the leaves grow out of the top and then the roots would grow out of the bottom. So think of the stem as like the main body of the plant. Next note, snacking on stems. Celery is a great after-school snack. It's also a fun way to study stems. When we eat celery, we eat the long, strong stem of the celery plant. Water and minerals travel through the stem, up through the roots, to the rest of the plant. Next up, straight to the top. Just like a straw, stems carry water, and whatever else they find, to the top of the plant. Grab some simple supplies to get a closer look at how stems work. So something you can do with a stalk of celery, if you have one. Get some water and some food coloring. Have an adult cut the celery so that the bottom of its stem is cut off, like so. Let the celery sit in water overnight. So like you could let one stalk of celery sit in a jar of blue-colored water and another one sit in a jar of red-colored water. And what you would eventually notice over time, I don't know if it's going to show us on the next page. It looks like it doesn't. But what you would see is that the celery and even the leaves would actually start to turn whatever color water they're in. So the one in the blue water would actually start to turn a little bit blue, and the celery in the red water would actually start to turn a little bit red. Remember, one of the jobs of a stem is to carry water, or soak up water like a straw, from the soil up into the rest of the plant. And so, if a stalk of celery is allowed to suck up water of a certain color, that color will start to become effused through the rest of the plant. So it's a pretty cool experiment. Maybe one we'll try to do in class. Okay, next part of the plant to talk about is the leaves. Have you ever gathered a big pile of leaves and then jumped into it? Have you made an art project with leaves? Leaves are beautiful. They're also an important part of every plant. There are many different types of leaves. Some are big and some are small. Some are smooth and glossy. Others are rough and have jagged edges. Some are green and others may be brown or orange. Leaves are where plants make their food. It happens in the part of the leaf called the blade. The food then moves through the leaf's veins to the stalk. The stalk is the part of a leaf that connects to the stem. All of these parts work together to help the plant grow big and strong. So next note, rock on! People are always coming up with new ways to use plants. Sound expert Diego Stacco used leaves to play a record. They work just like a needle on a record player. He turns and layers the leaves to produce different sounds. So very cool. As for leaf names, leaves come in many shapes and sizes. Long, thin pine leaves are leaves. The large leaves on a palm tree are called fronds. So next up, it mentions that plants use the leaves to make food. So how do plants make food? Have you ever seen a plant eating food? Probably not. That's because plants are some of the only living things that can make their own food. For many years, this process was a mystery, but today we know how plants do it. The process is called, and here's the name of the book one more time, Photosynthesis. It's a simple but amazing process. Water, sunlight, air. That's all it takes to make the energy that plants use to grow. So water the plant, provide it with some sunlight, expose it to air, and a plant is able to use just those three ingredients to grow to its full size. A bright idea. Plants are responsible for most of the photosynthesis that happens on Earth. But algae, which aren't quite plants or animals, also use photosynthesis to make food. Algae would be like the green stuff you might see floating on the surface of a lake. Scientist Pierre Calleja uses these creatures to create eco-friendly lamps, like those. No electricity needed. These lamps are powered by the algae's photosynthesis. Very impressive. So how does this photosynthesis work? Photosynthesis begins with the sun. Without the sun, plants would not have the energy needed to make food. Chlorophyll, there's a good word to know, chlorophyll in a plant's leaves absorbs light from the sun. So anytime you have a plant, if you open up those leaves, you can see chlorophyll inside. Water is also essential to plants because it is made of hydrogen and oxygen. Plant roots absorb water from the ground. Then the hydrogen in the water is used to create energy. Plants also use carbon dioxide from the air. Chlorophyll changes the carbon dioxide and oxygen. It transforms them into glucose, or sugar, that plants use for energy. So basically plants are using carbon dioxide from the air, water that they absorb, and sunlight in order to create sugar for themselves, and it's the sugar that they use for energy. Now here's something else you may have known. Water is made up of two parts, hydrogen and oxygen. That's why people call it H2O, because a single water molecule is made up of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom bonded together. H2O. Fall colors. Chlorophyll is what gives plants their color. In the fall, there is less sunlight. The days are shorter. Leaves absorb less sun, so they start making less chlorophyll. Soon, leaves stop making chlorophyll, and this is why leaves change colors. So if you didn't know, that's why. Next up, bigger effects. Photosynthesis gives plants energy. It also helps humans. Plants use the hydrogen in water and release oxygen into the air. If plants did not release this oxygen, we would not be able to breathe. We need oxygen to live. All animals breathe oxygen. Plants also use carbon dioxide to make food. This is a good thing because too much carbon dioxide in the air isn't good for humans. It can actually become poisonous. Plants take carbon dioxide out of the air. This helps keep our air clean and healthy. So that's why it's so important for us to have a lot of plants on the planet. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. The plants breathe in the carbon dioxide, and then through photosynthesis they breathe out oxygen. So it's kind of like we and plants trade those gases back and forth. We give them oxygen, we give them carbon dioxide, they give us oxygen, and the cycle goes back and forth. So very important that we and the plants help each other out. Next up, phytoplankton are tiny organisms that live on the ocean surface. They create more than half of the oxygen we need to breathe. So these little guys right here, phytoplankton. Next up, clearing the air. Forests are rich in trees and oxygen, but cities are often filled with pollution, and oxygen can be tough to find. So city planners are bringing forests into the city. Vertical farms and forests help city dwellers grow their own food and clean the air. Very good that we do that. Next up, photosynthesis produces energy. The same energy that plants use to survive also feeds other living things. Birds, insects, and mammals, including people, rely on plants for food. And we do more than eat plants. We also eat the animals that rely on those plants. The energy is passed to us through the animals we eat. In one way or another, we all get our energy from plants. So the plant provides energy to the grasshopper that eats it. When the rat eats the grasshopper, he's getting that energy. When a snake eats the rat, the snake then gets that energy. And when the hawk eats the snake, the hawk is getting that energy. So it's like the same energy that started from plants gets passed on to the next animal that gets eaten through the chain. That's how energy passes from one living thing to the next. And it all starts with the plants. Next up, we got talk to a plant. Gardeners have long believed that talking to plants can help them grow. An online experiment is testing this theory with messages from people around the world. Visit www.talktoaplant.com to learn more. So, at least according to this graphic right here, it looks like the plant that was spoken to not only grew taller and was darker green, exposed to 68,000 words, but it actually bloomed a sunflower, while the plant that was not spoken to didn't grow as high and it has not bloomed its flower yet. So it looks like talking to plants, according to this particular model, can help a plant grow bigger and faster. Very interesting. Wonder why that is. Next we have, plants have many other benefits too. Many plants are famous for their ability to heal. Oranges can prevent colds. They contain vitamin C. Ginger can relieve upset stomachs. People put ginger in their beverages to soothe their tummies. You can also drink ginger ale for that. Lavender can help people relax. Many lotions and bubble baths come in lavender scent to help people unwind. Have you ever gotten a sunburn? It stings. Aloe vera plants can help. That's aloe vera right there. There is a special gel in the leaves of these plants. The gel can help heal burns and small cuts. Without photosynthesis, none of these plants would exist. So curing with chlorophyll, some people take chlorophyll pills to prevent bad breath. Others use it to help digestion. Doctors are still studying how it works. Spinach, parsley, and green beans all have high levels of chlorophyll. So any one of those plants have certain medicinal properties that can help heal us, like it explained over there. Green beans, ginger, oranges, aloe vera, and lavender. Next up, the power of plants. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We have plants to thank for every breath we take, as we talked about briefly before. If we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have oxygen. Without oxygen, we wouldn't be able to breathe. Plants also take carbon dioxide out of the air, making it healthier for us to breathe. If we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have food. Without food, we wouldn't have energy to live and grow. Plants are a vital part of our world. They help us thrive in so many different ways. That's exactly why it's so important that we take care of them as well. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Thank you, plants. And with that, everybody, that was our ebook titled Photosynthesis, how it helps plants create energy for themselves and all the ways that we make good use of plants ourselves. So thank you for joining us, and continue with your science lesson today. Have yourself a great one, folks. We'll see you next time.